Hi, my name is Emma. I am a candle maker and a polymer clay artist. I have my own small business called Mood&Scent. I've had it for about 7 months now, but I've been doing polymer clay for way longer than that. Today we're going to be talking about how to get started with polymer clay. This video is going to be divided into 2 sections. First off, we're going to talk about the basic tools and equipment you need to do polymer clay, and then we're going to talk about tips and tricks when you're ready to get started. All right. First off, you want to get your hands on the polymer clay itself, right? I usually get mine from Michaels, but you can get it from Amazon as well if you don't have a Michaels in your neighborhood. I think you can also get it from pretty much every larger craft store. There are lots of different kinds of polymer clay brands out there, and I usually use Sculpey Primo. It doesn't really matter what kind of brand you're using when you're getting started. Lots of people have different opinions on what kind of brand they like to use. I guess you just have to figure that out for yourself. As mentioned, I like to use Sculpey Primo, and the reason I'm using Primo is because it's not too soft and it's not too hard, and that's just perfect for the kind of project that I am doing. Second of all, you want to get your hands on some tools. There are so many tools out there that you can use. I bought mine from Amazon and I got like 50 different kind of tools at once. It was really cheap as well. I guess it really depends on what kind of polymer clay project you want to make, right? Usually I use like between 3 to 6 of the same kind of tool every time I make a polymer clay creation. The basic tools I use look like this. I have some tools that I use to make texture, and then I have my little scalpel thingy. I use this one to make the eye sockets, and this kind of silicone brush to make like soft texture on the figurines. As mentioned, I got all of this in like a little bundle from Amazon. You can definitely get your stuff from there. If you're not quite sure about what kind of project you want to do yet, I think you should order like a bundle with various kinds of tools. But you can also always just use your hands to get started, or use materials you have lying around your house. That works really well too. One thing I find very useful is this little cute scale. I use this to weigh all of my polymer clay pieces to kind of ensure a certain consistency in all the figurines I'm making. That's really important if you have a small polymer clay business like me. You want to make all your figurines look alike, so you want to I pretty much got all of my stuff from Amazon, so if Amazon is at your disposal, I definitely recommend buying from there. I also use soft pastels like these. These are really nice if you want to shade your figurines in any kind of way. So this is basically how you color them. You can either scrape some of the color into the clay and then condition it so the color comes through, or you can just use a scalpel like this to scrape some of it off and then just kind of paint the figurine. I find this very useful for many of my figurines. For example, I use the red one here to make blush on my figurines, so they look like this. I think that's super cute, and those soft pastels are really good at making like really soft coloring. My light is running out of power. If you want to make your figurines look more shiny, you can glaze them with, for example, UV resin after baking them. The kind of UV resin that I use is this one. I got it from Amazon. This is really nice and just really easy to work with. The only thing you have to remember when working with UV resin, or just resin in general, I guess, is that it's very like toxic to inhale and get on your fingers. So you will need some kind of protection. If you ever get resin on a surface or on your fingers, you can always use nail polish remover to remove it. When glazing your figurines with UV resin, you will need to either put them outside in the sun to harden, or you can use a UV lamp, which is what I'm using. If you have a small business like me, you can get all of your packing materials from Amazon. I get my washi tape, bubble mailers, little boxes to put my figurines in, ribbon, all of those accessories from Amazon, and it is kind of cheap to get it from there. Also, Amazon has a small business owner program, so you can get discounts if you want to buy your stuff from them. I use all the materials and products that I just mentioned to make all of my figurines and keychains and just all my products in general. I use different techniques for different figurines. I guess I just really started out experimenting, and I was really frustrated about finding my style and what kind of figurine I liked to do. And then I invented my little spirit figurines, and I found the right technique and the right tools and the right polymer clay to make exactly the style figurine that I like. You can use polymer clay to make so many different kinds of figurines and projects, and it's really fun to work with. I guess I've kind of refined my styles over the years, and I really figured out what I really like to make, and luckily you guys seem to like that too. All right, let's talk a little bit bit about the tips and tricks when working with polymer clay. The first tip is to get some rubbing alcohol like this. This is really good to remove any kind of dust or residue of your figurines or the space you're working in. So basically what I'll do is I'll take a Q-tip and dip it in the rubbing alcohol, and then I will carefully remove any kind of dust from the figurine. Every time I'm starting a new polymer clay project or even just packing orders, I will take some of this on some paper towel and I will rinse the space I'm working in, as well as my fingertips and the palms of my hands, just to get all of that dust off from the area I'm working in. This is really effective, and it really just takes all the dust away from the figurine you're working on. So I can really recommend getting that, and it's like $3 in the dollar store. The next thing that's really nice to know about polymer clay is that it's not getting dry. It's not like air-dried clay that will really harden very fast if you don't put it away properly. Polymer clay is oil-based, which means that it's not gonna dry because it doesn't contain any kind of water. So you can just put your polymer clay away in a safe spot where it doesn't get any dust on it, and you can just keep it there until you're ready to work on it or ready to bake it again. When working on a project with polymer clay and you want to combine two parts of polymer clay together, you can't use water, as I mentioned before, like if you worked with air-dry clay. So what I like to do is to either take my little silicone brush and just kind of morph the two pieces together by, tapping and pulling the clay together, or you can use some kind of middle wire. So the middle wire is not gonna melt or anything when you put it in the oven because its melting point is way higher than what you need to bake polymer clay at. So you can simply just take a little piece of wire and kind of push the two pieces of clay together by using that. If you're just getting started with polymer clay, you don't need to buy every single color that you can find, because you can actually quite easily mix polymer clay colors together. I really suggest that you get a white, a black, a red, yellow, and blue. By buying these 5 colors, you actually get a lot more colors than that because you can mix them together, so you can make your own green, orange, or purple. When working with polymer clay, it's really important that you condition your clay before you bake it. And when I started out doing polymer clay, I was kind of confused what that meant. Conditioning basically just means that you have to fold your clay a bunch of times and heat it up between the palms of your hands and just really make it soft. The reason you need to condition your clay like this is because it can crack in the oven if you don't do that. But it can also crack if you do it too much. So basically you just really want to take your clay before sculpting it and just fold it a bunch of times and heat it up until you feel like you can work with it without it being too hard. Talking about baking, you always need to follow the instructions on the polymer clay. It's usually usually you have to bake a polymer clay at 275 Fahrenheit, and for every 1/4 inch you have to bake it for 15 minutes, if that makes sense. It will be written at the back of the polymer clay you're using, so look it up there. But what you have to be aware of is that when you're done baking your figurine, it will be a little bit soft when you take it out of the oven. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't bake it for long enough. The polymer clay simply has to harden as it cools down. Also, polymer clay is obviously not toxic when baking it, so you don't have to be worried about that. All right, guys, I guess that was it for this video. There's definitely a bunch of stuff that I didn't mention in this video that I will remember later, but feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll answer to the best of my knowledge. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a great day and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!